Hi, this is Ronin Wong, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So on today's episode, really excited to have our special guest, Ronin Wong. His most recent project, he was Mike Lam in The Sinner, which just finished wrapping up on the USA Network. So thank you for coming on the show today, Ronin. It's really excited to talk to you today.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, no problem. So, just to kind of, to start off, because I know you've had a great career, up to this point. When did you decide that you wanted to become, a storyteller?
Well, in my early 20s, because I started in the corporate world, I was working there and pretty good practice. I had a pretty good, occupation, making good money. And then I realized there's something wrong. Like I was kind of surprised, actually. I thought, well, it's fine. I didn't mind this stuff before, but there was absolutely nothing. There was something just missing. And then I realized that I'm just not fitting in here. I am pretending, I guess, almost without realizing it. I thought I was doing a good job, and I thought, well, this actually isn't me. There is a me that I'm trying to figure out where I belong. And the things that I always enjoyed the most were like music, movies, television. So I just took a leap of faith and just, well, let's jump in and see what's there. And if worse comes to worse, I'll just return to my corporate work, you know. And so I think it was, yeah, my early 20s. I decided, well, I need to do that. I didn't need to do something that I'm going to enjoy at least some of the time, at least.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
something that you're passionate about, and hey, you're
Mhm.
here. So I mean, you took that leap of faith, and you never looked back. It sounds like.
Yeah, it was a long journey,
Yeah,
but yeah, but here we are. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, and that's awesome. I mean, yeah, and then you can just kind of feel like when I don't know if like settling is like right the word, but yeah,
Mhm.
like you said, just kind of being there and your heart's not just like 100% like in it. So that's awesome.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, you've had, like I said, you've had a great career, up to this point. You recently just finished, wrapping on The Sinner, where you played the character of Mike Lam. For those, who maybe like aren't familiar or haven't seen like the latest season, can you just talk a little bit about your character, tell a little bit about him and just like what attracted you to the role like overall?
Oh, okay. So Mike Lam is a lobster fisherman. He recently got his own boat, so he's a lobster captain. He owns a restaurant with his wife. He lives in a small town in Maine, and he struggles a lot with, well, it borders on xenophobia. It's more like he gets treated like an outsider, even though they moved there 20 years ago. Especially since now he's got his own boat and he's got a restaurant that's thriving, and the locals are wondering, well, how did he do that? You see that, and that's the weird part because Mike actually is a local. 20 years is a long time to live in one place,
Yeah.
but because of the different race and because he has an accent, he's not totally adapted, I guess, to um, a kind of North American culture. So he's still on the outside a bit. He struggles with that. He's made a lot of compromises to get into his position, and over the course of the season, you'll find out just what some of those compromises are.
And with this being, it's fourth season of the show, ended up being, the final season of the show.
Right?
I always, I've talked to other people, and was it a challenge coming into the show where some of these different actors, the writers, producers, stuff like that, they've been working on the show for a couple of years. Is it a challenge to come into something like that? Just being this, this brand new character.
I think normally it would be, but the center is a little bit different in that each year it's a different case. It's a different mystery for the main character, Detective Ambrose, to solve. So it felt fine in that sense that okay, Ambrose is somewhere else now, and he's in a different place. And this is just another mystery for him to solve, and my life gets kind of um, intertwined with all that. Yeah.
And what was, with the show like rapping, I mean, what was just like some of your favorite, memories from working on the show, favorite, like aspects like overall?
Hmm. For one thing, I didn't actually know the show was wrapping. I didn't know it was the last season. Actually, we found that out, a bit later.
Later on, yeah.
Um, but some of my favorite memories was working with the actors that played my family on the show. That was a lot of fun. Working with Bill Pullman was amazing. Uh, he is so prepared, like for everything, and he's got a tough guy. He does all those things like fall into cold ocean water, all those kinds of things. You know, walking like near the edge of a cliff, and all those little bits that are kind of harder than they look to do. Like on the screen, sometimes it looks like, oh, a guy fell in the water, no big deal.
Yeah,
But this is the Atlantic in spring. It is cold.
little chilly.
You know, yeah, and I enjoyed working with the writers to craft this character. There's quite a concern over the authenticity of the character, that he be representative of um, the Cantonese background and the culture. And I had a lot of input into what seemed um, authentic and what might need a bit of massaging. While at the same time, you got to stay true to the fact that this is a detective story, right? You can't. It's not. It's not the Mike Lam story, right? It's like well, so there was that sort of balance to juggle, and I quite enjoyed being part of it, because normally as an actor, I haven't taken that much of, I guess, uh, an authority almost to decide the character. The writers are great and they've worked out the character. You jump in and you inhabit it. This was a little different because of their concerns. I felt like I took part at the last step of the character creation, actually sort of thinking, okay, this is something he might say. No, this is not something he wouldn't say. And just, feeling that out. So that was actually a really fun challenge.
So would you say, yeah, because I mean, I know a lot of, like you said, a lot of times, you have the writers, they kind of have the character all ready to go, and
Mhm.
you help bring that character to life, but you don't necessarily get as much say in how a character, is like portrayed to that like level. So would you
Mhm.
say, is Mike like one of your more like personal like roles like up to this point like in your career?
I think so. I put more into Mike. I put more like investment into him. I have done some writing, and this was kind of bordering on what I might do as a writer as opposed to an actor. It was a little different territory, and I kind of really enjoyed it. It was sort of, I'm not saying that it's not fair to say that I was a writer on the show. I mean, that the writers did their job,
Yeah.
but I was kind of almost like a cultural consultant in addition to acting, and so that was quite fun. I mean, I would do something like that again, but not necessarily about Chinese culture, like maybe about Dungeons and Dragons, which I'm a big fan of and
There
hobbyist. Maybe there's a part like that out there for a dungeon master or something, that
Yeah,
would be fun. Yeah.
believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to
Yeah.
say they're working on like a Dungeons and Dragons like film, I believe like currently.
Yeah.
So,
I heard about that, but I haven't been contacted yet. So
but yeah, no, I mean that's that's really cool. But yeah, I mean I could see now you're probably like, hey, can I get some more roles like this where I can I can have a little bit more like input with like the characters like that.
um it'd be lovely if I did, but I'm okay if I don't. I think this was a very special situation. Of course, that would be lovely, but because of the specifics of it, I got an experience. Um, I'll just say I was very spoiled. I think I got a solid experience. I mean, I have no problem like doing it the normal way, if you will.
Yep.
So I would love to be part of another series, because the thing, when you're part of an entire season, like there's a more in-depth involvement with the storytelling. You really become responsible for a big part of it. And I was able to see, well, what's my part of it? What are the other people's part of it? And that was really really thrilling to be on that side. It's like the curtain is open now, and you sort of you're on this other side. Oh, okay, this is how this is how this stuff works.
Yeah, it's different than just like, if you came on and your character was only there for like an episode or something like that. It was
Hmm.
just like a
Hmm.
guest appearance. So yeah, I can totally see what you're saying as far as like that goes.
Yeah.
And like I said, you've had a career that spanned 25 years, between
Mm-hmm.
acting, writing, directing, being a musician,
Mm-hmm.
having accomplished so much already up to this point, like in your career. Where do you draw inspiration from as far as picking out the next project that you want to work on?
Sometimes it's from something I need to do for myself, something that was left undone, either as a child or maybe as an adult. And other times it's drawing on what's happening now. And often it's a melding between the two. I mean, I do have to kind of deal with like what work comes my way too. Like it's not entirely me, but I do have some input
Yeah.
into that. Right now, I am working on writing some projects to write and direct, perhaps acting. It'll depends. I know people have told me that no, you shouldn't say perhaps. You say I'm definitely, you know. But the truth is, I'm dedicated to the project itself, and I'm okay with if as much as I love acting, I'm okay with the idea that maybe the project isn't best served by me acting in it. Maybe I need to stand outside and observe it. So I'm open to that, which is why I say, okay, I'm writing, directing, may act, and we'll see how the project takes shape. So I have another short film in the works, and I'm working on a feature as well. And then for fun on the side, I'm working on music. Like for now, like what music is my, it's kind of like my break from television and film. Like for now, that's what it is. But down the line, there'll probably be something else.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you because where you've
Mhm.
done writing, directing, musician. Do you
Mhm.
find yourself drawn to any one of those areas in particular more than the other, or do they all kind of satisfy your creative mind like in their own different like ways?
It varies over time. Like again, it partly it's from me, but partly it's also from what uh, is being responded to out there. Like right now, currently, acting is really working, and there's a lot of response and interest in me acting on different shows. And I'm just riding along with it. At times, though, I've been passionate about other things. Like at times, I've been passionate about a play that I was writing, um, or music, or couple, let's say a recording that I wanted to make and get out in the world. It varies. Well, one thing that's different about music, see the thing that's different about music and other art forms for me is that it's something I've had since I was a child. So it's something that's inherent. It's part of me. Like
Yeah.
I have to play music. It's almost like having to exercise. Like some people exercise. I exercise, maybe not as much as I should, but but for me, it's like it's part of my diet. And I would probably play music a lot if it wasn't my profession. So it occupies that space, um, as well. Whereas acting for me, it's a job I really like. It's like my favorite job, but it's not quite the same. It's not like, say, if I was on a vacation somewhere, I would get out a character and act on a scene, right? But if I were on vacation somewhere, I might bring my guitar or ukulele and play and sing.
Yeah.
So they're not, they're slightly different. They're slightly different for me.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like writing and directing, I almost look at that as an ultimate thing, because once you get into storytelling, what if you told the whole story instead of just this one character part of it? Let's tell the whole story, right? And see how that happens. So for me, that it's almost like that's a natural extension. Like when you make a film, and of course, films have music, so
Yep.
that's part of it. So I look at that as kind of like it's like an all in, it's like those vacation places where you're all in and you get all the food and all the activities that you want, whereas like making a film or a TV series feels like it's an all in thing. You've got all the various art forms involved, and I might be responsible for some parts of it, and for other parts of it I have to team up with others. other artists. And so I guess for me, that kind of thing is it feels like an ultimate destination.
Yep. Yeah, no, I completely, completely understand where you're coming from as far as like that goes. And speaking of your
Mhm.
music, I saw that you have, a couple instrumental, like albums, A Comet's Tale and Inspirations by Ronin. Where did, you said that it's kind of always been like a part of you. So where did that inspiration come from, even if it was like, from like your family or other sources, and just, and also who are some of your like favorite artists that you enjoy listening to?
Okay. The instrumentals, it came from a place where as a child I had these piano lessons, and because I had them for so long, like making music and writing instrumental music was just, it was a part of me. So it was something I needed to explore first. Ultimately, my favorite type of music is actually rock, because you might not get that listening to those first two recordings, but those were things I really needed to do it at a particular time. um some of my favorite artists are the Beatles. I'm watching Get Back right now, the documentary on Disney Plus.
Yep.
So it's been quite fascinating. You have to get through the first hour where they're just setting up, but once they get beyond that, it's really fascinating what their process. So I'd say Billy Joel has been a really big influence on me. As a kid, it was because, wow, he's cool. He plays the piano and he's cool.
Yeah.
Wait, maybe I play the piano. Now I just have to work on being cool. So I'd say Billy. And today's artists, some of today's artists, I really like. Adele just has an incredible voice, and she gets into everything she sings like 120% somehow. She just is able to do that. And I quite enjoy Lady Gaga. I really like her different phases in her songwriting. She seems like she's a singer-songwriter,
Yep.
but that's taken on all these other things. But in her heart and soul, it seems like, okay, this is a singer-songwriter, like in almost the way that singer-songwriters have been in our culture for the last 50, 60 years. So, and I'm enthused about current music. Sometimes people of, well, my generation say that there's no good music anymore, and I think, well, you're listening in the wrong places. It depends on your preferences. There's great music. you know
Yeah.
Another current one that I like is Bruno Mars. I just think he's exceptional, the talent in all different directions.
Oh yeah, so he's tackled like multiple, genres. You can't really
Yeah.
pin him in one area. And actually, I mean, a couple of those, like too. I mean, even like Lady Gaga as well, definitely able to kind of merge into like different like genres, not necessarily like just specifically like pop. So now, question for you, I guess, because you did the instrumental, albums, and you
Mhm.
mentioned you're a fan of like rock and some of these other artists.
Mhm.
Do you have any plans, or have you ever thought of maybe doing an album based in like rock or one of these like other genres?
Yeah, I do want to. Like for now, what I'm doing is just having fun, writing songs, and learning songs. I'm kind of going back to the roots almost right now because, well, I'm busy with acting. Um, but I do have a bit of spare time, like in between acting gigs. Sometimes I do have spare time, and
Mhm.
and that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of learning the music that I want to, and eventually I think I will release something. I'm not exactly sure in what form yet, but it'll most likely be some kind of rock, maybe some classical influence too. We'll see. But I'm also not trying to put too much into it. I just want something that's straight ahead, honest, um, not too much instrumentation for now.
Yep. Yeah, it's something that, so it's cool. It sounds like, yeah, you're just kind of letting things, come to you as they come along. You're not,
Mhm.
forcing anything out there just to put like
Mhm.
a, a specific like project out there.
No, no, I fortunately I don't need to do that anymore. There was a time when I did, but I'm not in that phase anymore. So yeah.
So that, I mean, so that's always, that's always good. I mean, that's definitely exciting. So definitely have to keep an eye out, for that. And we kind of talked about it like a little bit briefly, but you wrote and directed your first short film called Eight Short Films About Cell Phones.
Yeah, yeah.
Where did the inspiration for that, come about? And I believe you actually already said it, but are you looking to do like a full feature in like the upcoming like future as well?
Yeah, the okay, 8 short films about cell phones was um I'm a bit of a technophobe. Like I use technology when I have to. Like Zoom, I'm actually very used to Zoom. I'm used to communicating with musicians, and when I used to teach music,
Mhm.
sometimes we would use Zoom or Skype. And with the music recording, yeah, I'm fairly comfortable with that. But in general, I'm not comfortable with technology. And one of the things is phones. Like it took me a long time to get used to it. So I had this idea about this one long phone call that was, it starts with two people talking, and then they have like an argument or an altercation or something, and then to resolve it, there'd be another person phoning someone else. And so that's what it became. It used to be 22 short films about cell phones, and I thought, no, that's far too much work. Let's just make it a 10-minute film, 8 short films. So it's 8 little stories that segue into each other. Some of the short, extremely short stories are quite dramatic and serious. Some are quite funny, but at the end, it all ties together. It goes back to the beginning, the first guy again, and it's a day that will change people's lives. But it all starts out with this one innocent situation where a guy has to be called in for work, and his wife and kids won't have anything with it because he's always doing this. What is so important about your job? We're having this picnic. It was one of the few times you're together with your kids. And so they have this argument. He says, but I've got to cover. And then he phones his cousin to say, look, I had to be called like instantly, but I left Joy and the kids out in the park. Could you come over and give them a ride? Right. And so, and then his cousin has to bug her out of going to dinner with his girlfriend, and it goes on and goes on. And eventually it all comes back full circle. So that was that film. The feature film that I'm working on is different from that. Uh, right now, tentatively, it's a story. It's a father-daughter story. They're very estranged. Like he's a rock blues singer
Yep.
who's done okay. Like he's not really rich or anything, but he's survived in it. But he is in pretty bad shape. Like lots of drinking, drugs over the years. So he looks fine, but his interior is really in bad shape. And he has this daughter that he hasn't seen in years because he thought it was better if he stayed out of her life, like because his wife is remarried. They are solid people. They have own accountant firm and stuff like that. And the daughter's going to be like, she's in pre-med. She's an excellent student, but she's a lot like her dad. She's a dreamer. And her thing is she wants to make movies and she wants to make documentaries about causes that matter to her. That's what she really wants to do. But she's in this med school. And one day she's had enough and she leaves. And she says, I've got to get away. I gotta find someone who understands me. And she thinks of her dad because his tour schedule is right on the internet. She's able to find him. And then there's this journey of the two of them, like trying to learn about each other. And I think the father along the way realizes that, damn, that was a real bad mistake to stay out of her life. It really was. And then it's a story about making up for lost time. There's a lot of music in it. So see, that's one where I think I would play the dad because we can't let me play this music, but still have something that was of some meaning um, to people out there today. And it's also part of my own journey, sort of being at peace finally with leaving the corporate world and going this other route.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, well, I am working on that. Like I had like a treatment and I had some readings turning into a draft, and then you know how it goes, and you have to get
Yep.
funding and all the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I mean that definitely, yeah, no, it sounds exciting. It feels like something that, yeah, I feel like you would definitely be able to, that
Mhm.
play that role very well. So it'd be exciting to see where this ends up. I mean, I know you haven't started shooting or anything like that, but
Mhm.
um has the transition so far, just as as writing, was that hard to go from, doing like a short and then now trying to do like a full like feature?
Yeah, there are definitely some challenges, but I've had experience writing other things, like longer form things. Like one of the things I actually wrote was an adventure. in a role-playing industry. So I had a brief foray with working in that until I decided I really love this as a hobby. I don't want to turn all my hobbies into work. Look, I'm going to make like this one sacred. This is just for fun. Right.
Sure.
So, but it did give me experience of writing sort of longer forms, longer stories. So I think it wasn't too bad. Just the writing stage. The real challenge for me will be to, aside from the funding, is to think of the visualization of it. You have the script, but then you have to sort of imagine, well, how is all this going to work?
Yeah.
And at some point, of course, I'll have to take on partners. So I'm not sure how much of that is going to be on my shoulders and how much of that is going to be on theirs. And the great thing about acting is it's opened up a lot of contacts for me and people that I've worked with and had great working relationships with. And I'm optimistic that it will help me, get the movie made. Whereas without the acting and meeting everyone and learning about things, it would be less of a realistic goal to make a film like this.
Yeah, well, definitely a little bit more of a challenge, like for sure. So yeah, no, I'm
Mhm.
definitely excited to see how that plans out. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye out for that.
Okay, thank you.
And as far as so that's one thing that we know that you're working on like right now.
Mhm.
Just to kind of to wrap things up, what's next for you, Ronan, and where can or what can fans expect from you, going forward, like in the future that you're able to talk about at this point.
Well, there is the short film, eight short films about cell phones. Like it did its film festival run a couple of years ago, and now I'm just going to put it out on YouTube just to make it public. And that, I think that's something fairly standard. Once like a short film has done its festival run, a little later, you put it out there. So I'm interested to see what other what people out there think of it. I've also taken an interest in doing being like a bit of a film critic. I've dabbled in it a bit. I'm not sure if I should separate the two. So
Yeah.
like I love film history, and I've actually watched like a ton of films, and I've made a little mini review of each film I've watched, like all the way going back to like 1888, if you can believe it. That's the first
Wow.
film. Yeah, I mean it's like about 10 seconds long, but it's the first film. And that's partly a hobby, but obviously it'll end up reflecting on my work. So next year I'm interested in setting up a website and sending that out in the world, maybe making videos about film history, maybe making videos about how things get actually made, in case people are curious.
Yeah.
So I'm moving more in that direction, and I'm excited to see how that ties in um, with my own performing and creating career. Like the website I'm envisioning should be fun for people to explore. Okay, there's this stuff here, and then if they're interested in what I do, okay, this is over here, but there's all this, film history and
Yeah.
other stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, that sounds like a great idea, just to, at least like for myself, I'm someone that I love to always get the behind the scenes stories, of how things were made and all of that. So I'm always picking up like the art of books. I don't know if you
Mm.
like the art of like a certain film.
Yeah, I understand, Joe.
So like,
Yeah.
it gives you like all the behind the scenes stories, the
Mm.
writing and stuff like that. And I love that kind of stuff. So I'd imagine there's a lot of people out there that just to kind of get your insider perspective on how the industry works from, from the inside, rather than just like looking in. So I think that
Mhm.
would be really cool. And yeah, I mean, I do movie reviews, like myself, and
Oh, okay, cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that's, it is a lot of fun. It's like
Mhm.
this year, I want to say, it's like obviously been earlier in the year is a little tough with, just, still the pandemic and everything. But
Right.
um, I want to say I'm close to like at actually most of them like in theaters around like 60 films like seeing like in like theaters. So it's
Wow. Wow, that's impressive.
it's been a pretty fun year. I mean,
Yeah.
basically it feels like almost at the
Mhm.
theater at least like once a week. So yeah, no, I think that would be cool if you did that.
Mhm. That's great. That's impressive. You're able to get out that often in this climate, in the way things are.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, definitely lucky because I know some people,
Mhm,
other countries and stuff like that that
mhm,
unfortunately have been like closed.
mhm.
One of the theaters that I did go to, they actually did close, and lucky enough, another place actually bought them out, reopened the theater back up. So that
Right.
was, I mean, that was nice. But one theater that I've has kind of become a tradition over the past couple of years to go to, especially for like the really big release movies. It's
Mhm.
here. So I'm in New Hampshire. This theater's in Massachusetts. It's like the
Oh,
Gordon IMAX theater, and
mhm,
that's been
mhm,
closed ever since
mhm.
the pandemic started. Like they just haven't opened it up like at all, and they haven't said it's closing like for good, but it's just like not being able to see some of those bigger films there. It's like like that's been kind of a thing to do the past like couple of years, and haven't been able
Mhm.
to do it yet. So, but hopefully soon.
Yeah,
Fingers
cross your
crossed.
fingers. Yeah, things will
Yeah.
improve bit by bit. Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
Ronan, yeah, as far as where can people follow you? Social media, anything like that?
Oh, yeah, I just recently started an Instagram account, Technophobe, remember? So I've recently, and I do have a Facebook page, fan page, just says Ronin Wong, actor, musician. The Instagram just is Ronin Wong, and I do have a YouTube channel. I have two YouTube channels, but they're undergoing transition right now. So if what you see might not be what you see in the near future.
Yep.
There is yeah, Ronin Wong. I think it's just Ronin Wong as is, and then there's Ronin Wong films on YouTube as well.
All right, perfect. Well, hey, Ronan, again, thank you. I really want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come on here and do
Mhm.
the interview and just talk about like your some of your projects and things like that. So thank you again for coming on the show.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thanks, Pat. It's great. Hi, this is Ronin Wong, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.